This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust that you will consider this your vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? It will enable others who have not located this podcast yet to be able to find it. And when you do subscribe, would you leave a rating and a brief written review? I'm also looking for the next level leaders that I can come alongside and help. I have a couple of openings in my calendar next week, and I'd like to see if there's a possibility of me helping you with your dreams, your visions, getting unstuck, beating procrastination. I'd like to be your coach. Just go to drronblake.com/call and get on my calendar, and I will give you a call. Today I want to talk about the emotionally engaged leader. Now, emotion gets both good and bad raps, and one of the things that we will discuss today is the fact that in the area of emotions, there are both positive and negative. You know, there's hardly anything that you could bring up that we could discuss that doesn't have an upside and a downside. Nearly everything. But let's talk about the emotionally engaged leader. Oftentimes, many leaders do not want their troops to see them in an emotional setting. And therefore, they kind of distance themselves. Not just kind of, many of them are far distant. They're not authentic. They're not transparent. And leader, if you're going to be a leader in the 21st century, you must become engaged. You must engage with the people you are leading. And I have about 5 things that I want to say today about how you and I can be the emotionally engaged leaders that we really need to be. The first one is, in order to accomplish this and to be the emotionally engaged leader, I have to possess some self-knowledge. I have to say, one of the things that amazes me so much in life is how many people have wide blind spots when it comes to themselves. I'm not sure if it's because they're delusional or they really don't know, or because of their personality, even if people broach the subject, they just are not open to making any kind of change or to taking a real good look at themselves. Now, I understand, I really do, how painful this is. Because you see, every one of us are a product of our parents, our past, our hurts, our victories, our defeats, the culture in which we were raised, and we develop our own world view. And we can get so used to just going through the motions of living our life that we really haven't spent time knowing ourselves. Every one of us have negative and positives. I mean, let's just face it. Now, most of us don't want to face it, but there are. There are times that I do and say dumb things. But don't feel badly for me, because you, in fact, do the very same thing. There are certain things that I get by nature that others have had to work on, and vice versa. There are some people who are just sweeter by nature than I am, and I've had to work at it a little harder. Just because I am saying that there are negative and positive components to our personality, our background, our experiences, does not mean they're bad or that they're even wrong. But you will not be the leader you need to be until you understand who you are, what makes you tick, what has happened in your life. And yes, there are both negative and positive. Some of the negative in some of our lives needs to be enhanced. But even positives and strengths. I heard one person say that oftentimes our weaknesses in life are just overextensions of our strengths. So we need to keep that in balance, and we need to know ourselves. How can I know myself? You just need to spend some time in reflection. If you're a person of faith, that would be Bible study and prayer. I think journaling and mindfulness All of those things are very important. But if you're going to be an emotionally engaged leader, right from the beginning, you have to have self-knowledge. You have to know who you are. The second of the 5 things that I would say is you have to, as you learn to know yourself and know yourself better rather, is you have to understand your emotions. Emotions are a part of life. Now, I don't know what your emotion is. It seems in the culture I live in today that anger is the only emotion that people are comfortable with. If someone cuts someone off in traffic, we begin to swear and angry and road rage. We take everything as a personal affront. Our anger is always right there on the surface. But here's what I want you to understand. They say that of leaders who have had failings or failures, at an overwhelming majority, some say up to 75% of that was because of emotional incompetencies. They couldn't keep their emotions in check, especially anger. Can I tell you a couple of things about anger? Any person capable of angering you has become your master. Whether it's an abusive parent from the past, a former relationship you were in, and every time you think of that person, you just almost want to explode in anger. Are you aware that you are giving them an extreme amount of power in your life? You are, in fact, allowing them to be your master. Any person capable of angering you has become your master. Allow me at this point to say another thing about anger that I think will help us in understanding our emotions. When we give angry responses to people, do you know what we're teaching them? We're teaching them a lot of things, including our own character. But when we respond in anger, when someone is talking with us, here's what happens. We teach them that anger works. It really works. And I don't believe that's the message you and I are wanting to share, that if you want to get to me, if you want to get a rise out of me, if you want to get a response out of me, just say a few things that will anger me. Understand your emotions. If for some reason you are exceedingly angry, then you might get some help and learn, where does that come from and why do I react that way? Anger isn't the only emotion you have to understand. You need to understand why you react in all sorts of ways. And if you're going to be emotionally engaged, before you can help others and understand others, again, you have to understand yourself. Find a way. The third thing that I would say that will help you to be the emotionally engaged leader that you need to be is find a way to have reality checks. There are going to be all kinds of opportunities for us to react and respond. One of the ways that this really happens when you sit in the leadership chair is you are open to criticism. The only people I know who are open to criticism are people who are in positions to do something and to make decisions. And I've talked about anger really as a segue into this subject. I have been to places where I have been severely criticized. As a matter of fact, it is an occupational hazard. One of the reasons so many will never become leaders is they can't handle when they're criticized. Let me help you there. It doesn't matter if you're a butcher, a baker, or a candlestick maker. Someone today is criticizing you. They're second guessing, and oftentimes they're doing that because it makes them feel better about themselves. Never react with anger when you receive criticism. I was in a staff meeting in one of my responsibilities, one where we all did receive a good dose of criticism. And what would happen then is that we would almost laugh it off, or we would almost just dismiss it out of hand because we had gotten the opinion that we lived in a critical climate. One staff meeting, I said this: before we dismiss any criticism that we receive, let's together look at the criticism to see, is there in fact a kernel of truth? Regardless of whether we like the person real well, regardless of how much it hurts, regardless of how much we feel we are doing our very best, find a kernel of truth. If you're going to be emotionally engaged, you have to look at criticism and the criticism you receive realistically. And here's what I have to say. The overwhelming majority of criticism I received, parts of it may very well indeed been unfair, and I believe it was. But a lot of it was spot on. And they were helping me in a backhanded, backdoor kind of way, realizing that I may have had some blind spots, or there were unintended consequences, or I hadn't thought how everyone would respond to that. The fourth thing that I want to say about the emotionally engaged leader, especially right now, is because most everything has had just a slight negative connotation, but emotions are positive. The people who have moved the needle, moved the ball, gotten things done, did so because they connected at the emotional level. It is all right to have passion. As a matter of fact, it's not all right to be passionless. If you're a leader and you have been called to do something significant, you'll say, well, I'm not Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about changing your world. In order to do that, you're going to have to be filled with a passion and a belief that what I am doing is very, very important. The last thing that I want to say about how to become an emotionally engaged leader is that I want you, when you hear the word engage or engagement, realize that it's really another word for connection. The emotionally engaged leader is not the leader who has their emotions in check every moment of the day, but it is a leader who has learned how to connect with people. And you won't connect if you don't care. You won't connect if you don't get involved. You won't connect if you hold yourself aloof. So think of engagement, the emotionally engaged leader, as the connected leader. Here's what I want to close with. Remember, the reason we need emotionally connected leaders is people are not logical, they're emotional. Even the people who tell you how logical they are, underneath are emotional. If you don't think so, just start calling their children names and you'll find out that Mr. and Miss Logic can become quite emotional. Yes, we are creatures with brains and use logic, but we're also creatures with hearts, and emotions are part of it. And we need effective leaders who are emotionally engaged and connected to people. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust that today this has been like a vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts, please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Leave a rating and a brief written review. I have a couple of spots on my calendar next week. I'd love to be able to come alongside and see if we can work together and I can coach you. All you have to do is go to drronblake.com/call, get on my calendar, and I'll call you and see what the possibilities are. Remember, my leadership friend, you really are doing better than you think you are. You are making a difference. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.